Majority of movies that come out, you pretty much know everything you're going to see in the movie by the first 10 or 20 minutes. Now that's not a story. A story is something that constantly unfolds.
Do you enjoy writing? Do you feel like you have fully fledged, multidimensional relationship with your writing? You see, I'm not asking this because real writing is really fun, although it undoubtedly is. I'm asking this because it's not up to a talent. It's up to an approach. In this video, we are uncovering the advice Quentin Tarantino left for us to grasp, which is absolutely essential to his writing. Hey Quentin, I hope you are right with a couple of us having here an examination class of your brains, and then we will implement that in our writing. So let's go. You see, when it comes down to picking up the right tools about how to write, all that should matter is what works. And so instead of giving old, strict, insufficient, rigid rules about what to do, we are going instead to ask a series of questions about what we might do. So if what matters is what works, how do you know what works? Well, you didn't bother. You just used the right structures to help you to do it fast. Nope. Because all that you end up with is a movie that you already seen. And those kind of movies don't work. Why? Because the viewer's minds have worked out the pattern. And if you are after establishing yourself due to originality, do what I teach you in this video. So what works? What works is what works. Just tell me, what are you trying to accomplish in the moment of writing? If you're trying to make things more suspenseful, hello, yes, by the way, they will not teach you this in writing schools. They will never teach you how to make things work. They will just give you ready structures and then will tell you to hope that they will work. If you're trying to make things more suspenseful, you do it by trying to make things more suspenseful. You look at what you may do to add up to the suspense, and you add it up. I just want to show you a clip that emphasizes my point really well.
It was my favorite thing that happened on The Departed. It was 1/8 of a page, and it said, Costello, which is the name of his character, Costello executes man kneeling in the marshes. But I think I can make it better. So what I do is I come from the Roger Corman school, so I'm not gonna add any time, and I'm not gonna add to your budget. But instead of a man kneeling in the marshes, I make it a woman. And I go, oh, okay. And he goes, so I'm gonna execute a woman, but I'm not gonna be alone. I put Ray in the scene with me, and I do the thing, and I shoot her in the back of the head. But if you leave the camera rolling, after she falls, I turn to Ray and I say,
Jeez, she fell funny.
that's a really sinister thing to say. Because it means I do this a lot and there's a way people fall.
Right.
And she didn't fall that way. And I go, oh, yeah, I get it, man, I get it. He goes, now you could end the scene there, but if you leave the camera rolling, Ray steps forward and he reveals that he's holding an axe. He's gonna chop her up.
Oh, man.
Now you could end the scene there. He goes, but if you leave the camera rolling. I turn to Ray and say, wait, I think I want to fuck her again. And he goes, now that's a very sinister line. And I go, I get it. It's really, really, really disturbing. And he says, now you could end the scene there. But if you keep the camera rolling, Ray stops and looks at me. And there's a pause. And I go, ah. He goes, and that's a sinister thing to do because we're making a joke out of this whole thing. And I go, yeah, I get it. He goes, now you could end the scene there. But if you leave the camera rolling, God. Ray says,
Francis, you really should see somebody.
that's what a great writer looks like.
That's right.
By trying to make things more sinister, he added up what would make things more sinister. And sometimes you don't even know what exactly you want, but there is an idea that when imagined feels like is the right idea to fit in. And it applies to overall the whole movie.
What's a movie you want to see?
Every single aspect of it. You are asking yourself, what is it that I want to see? And then when it comes down to doing it, actually, you just perfect every single detail. You just ask yourself, how can I make this better? And you make it better. You do one piece by one piece. And this is actually what Rick Rubin said. Rick Rubin is the music producer, and he wrote the book called A Creative Act, The Way of Being, and he's talking a lot of smart stuff about creativity, and one of those is, if what you're creating makes you feel good, that means you're getting closer to your goal, and if what you're creating makes you feel bad, that means you're getting farther from your goal. And the goal, as usual, is to create as greatest art piece as it possibly may be.
Moving in a good direction, or we're moving away from it. We're moving towards it or away from it, and we never know. And so it's always an experiment. And maybe a simple way to talk about it would be like, if I gave you 2 dishes of food and asked you to taste them and tell me which one you like better. Usually it's pretty straightforward. You know, when you have 2 choices, which you like better. And I think most creativity can be boiled down to that.
This is absolutely different idea than merely filling in the check boxes of ready theoretic structures. So this kind of approach allows you to be more in tune with your work. You do not hope that the structures that you were given will somehow work, which is an absolutely blind point of view and has just no place in real world. You are instead really in tune with your work, and you see what works and what doesn't, and therefore you create a masterpiece. That's actually the way it's written. I just cannot understand for the life of me why this isn't being taught in writing schools. So the conclusion for this part is, do not use the quick through-X structures about how to write stories, because you are going to hurt yourself. They produce the stories that do not work. That means they were written by the people that do not know how to write stories that do work. So do not practice what you don't want to become. And when I say 3x structures, believe me, I do acknowledge that a story has beginning, middle, and end. But for me, a 3x structures is nothing more than something that you should just check out on the background with your feelings. And that's it. Now and then. And that's it.
Alright, genius, you just kicked us out of the slavery, but now we're in the middle of a desert. And what the hell are we supposed to do? What's the promised land? You, my dear friend, practice moment by moment method.
This term is derived from acting, and it basically implies that you will achieve better results focusing on the moment, instead of trying to force what's happening right now to align the moment with the results you want to achieve.
When I'm writing, it's about the page. It's not about the movie. It's not about cinema or anything. It's about the literature of me putting my pen to paper and writing a good page.
By focusing on the moment and achieving the best results you can exceeds the ideas you have about the future. First of all, remember, not to practice what you don't want to become. What do you practice when you say, well, this is just this moment of the story that is boring. I left all the ideas for the later. And at the end of the day, you cannot make the whole movie a roller coaster. You practice being delusional. When the moment to execute all your brilliant ideas is going to come, all that is going to come down to is still writing the best page. You cheat here and write mediocre stuff here, it's going to happen to the rest of your script, just because you have no idea how to accomplish the art on the page. So you kind of can push your story now and then in the most interesting direction, but you cannot do it with overall story with every single component of it. And if you've been practicing through structures for your whole entire creative life, this philosophy may be difficult for you, and it's alright. Practicing moment by moment will become new and exciting way of creating with time. So once you decided to write your movie, you probably have an idea what it's going to be, and Quentin says that it's alright to have an outline somewhere by the middle. But once you start writing, and once your story takes on its own life, and if something happens that pushes it in its own direction, there should be no force in keeping it in the predetermined way. In fact, you should write with the mindset of being open to all the slightest changes, because they bring opportunities.
It doesn't do me much good to think too much past the middle. I mean, I might know where I want to go. I mean, I write genre pieces, so you have an idea what the third act's going to be, and Kill Bill. I guess she'll probably kill Bill at the end. But, a genre movie, you think you know where you're going, and you're probably right, and you have an idea of how you might want the ending to end as for both a movie and for an audience. But for the most part, you can kind of work out more or less what's going to get you to the middle. But to think beyond that is kind of silly, because by the time you get to the middle, when you've actually been writing it, well, it's a different story now. It's a different thing now. Now you are the characters. You know the characters. Things that you could never have known before you started writing are now, they're in your blood. It's like this entire, there is a mythology to my movies to some degree or another. And that mythology is delivered as I write. And I might have a checklist of things that I might want to do during the course of the time, but some of them, become irrelevant as you go on. And when other ones take their place, and some things that you thought could have been a big deal, well, they are a big deal. And some things maybe half the reason you wanted to write it, by the time you get to where that would happen, it's for something else. It's not for this. But by the time you get to the middle, that's where you want to be. You want to be this expert. You want to be in the middle of the story. You want to know who these people are. And now, with all this knowledge, now you figure out where you want to go for the second half. I'm trying to write to that spot where I don't know what's going to happen. I'm trying to get to that. I'm trying to get off that blueprint. And I'm trying to get to that place where now the characters are telling me and the characters are exciting me.
I remember when that happened first for me, because I was over obsessed with 3x structures. You see, it's like I looked at this and I was like, cannot be that. It just cannot be that. There has to be something else to it. And I was like listening to Quentin, one lesson, another, third, fourth, and I was writing the notes on each of them, and I was like, there is something to it, Let me try. And when I started implementing them piece by piece, there was struggle. There was struggle with 3x structures, and there was struggle with these teachings of Quentin. It's like I have these thousands ideas about the scenes and how they might go, and what am I supposed to abandon them now? It's like, no, I will not do that. I will stick to them. They are great. I know them because I imagined them. They were great. And it's like, and then I started like, but what if I will try to actually just let them go? Just let them go, Start focusing on the page. And so I did. I just wrote this page. And you know what happened? The wonderful truth is, when I started focusing on the page, all those great scenes that I had in my mind started arranging themselves in the order that would fit. And some of them did go in the story, and some of them didn't. And it actually didn't matter. It didn't matter. Just pieces, they were like puzzles. And while I was writing, they were just fitting in, I wasn't forcing them. They just rearranged themselves. And that was like enlightening to me. And I want my story to be encouragement for you to try out this method. When it comes down to picking up the way of writing, moment by moment method is the only way that can guarantee you that you will be able to call yourself a real writer with dignity. And because the best way to learn anything is by example, I encourage you to subscribe to this channel right now, because I am the only one who can teach you how to be a real writer. And because the next video is going to be exactly the example of how to write moment by moment in details. So the right choice would be to subscribe. Make the right choice.